Hi, creators. It's Doro Kiley here with Creation Coach. Thanks for joining me. I am back from an amazing Labor Day weekend with my family, so I've been away a little bit. And now we are back online. Today's talk is colonization and homogenization. Of course, homogenization is the process of like taking oil and vinegar and forcing them to be together. So it's like milk, it's like mixing fat and water. So this is what I've been watching some videos on, and what we've been watching over the last, gosh, thousands of years now is this colonization of a Western way of thinking. And I lived in France for a few years, and I could see it myself. Now, this was even back in the 80s. When I first moved there down in the South, there were no big box stores. There was no fast food. It was very much French, very, very deep French culture. And after 10 years, I began to see things changing, fast food moving in, big box stores. And the culture itself was changing. Everybody wanted to be, the Western culture was being deeply embraced, and so it felt familiar, and it's nice to go to a place where you always know what to expect, like a hamburger place or McDonald's rather. But as this goes on and on and on, and I've seen throughout the decades that now this this is colonization, this is homogenization, this is everybody becoming the same. And this video that I'm sharing below is about the collapse of worldviews, and it's gone more and more and more homogenous, and there's a lot of people pointing fingers and blaming and taking sides and getting angry. And I'm thinking, on the other hand, this might just be who we are. And I know that scares a lot of people, but if you look at any species, if the resources are good, I think they did a study in Yellowstone where they had introduced the wolves back. And anyway, over some period of years, it changed the whole landscape, just because these wolves had, wonderful resources, and they grew and they expanded, and it changed everything. So it's just the way they are. It's just the way wolves are. And many, many animals are like that. If the resources are available, the species will expand and do what it does. So is it possible that this is just human nature? We found a resource named oil, and we expanded, and now here we are, and we have come to a point where, and this is not a talk about oil, this is just talk about colonization in general, and we have basically been colonizing the world. So what happens when a species is so successful that it uses up all its resources? What happens? Well, usually the colony will divide and go separate ways, or it will just eventually perish because it uses up all the resources. And you see this all the time throughout history. I am not a history buff by any means, but stories of what comes to mind, the Anasazi, who grew a big settlement for many, many hundreds of years around a resource of water. The water went away, and the whole colony perished. And so I don't know the details, but this is just an example. When the resources are there, the species expands and evolves and colonizes and takes over all the resources until there are no more resources, and the whole thing is just collapsing, which is what this talk below is about. It's a talk with Charles Eisenstein. The name of the video is Collapsing Worldviews. So I see now what happens when the species gets so big and successful and has nowhere else to go. Because I think that's what we're aiming at, is that this colonization is basically engulfing the world. And so what happens when it's everywhere and it's so successful, it runs out of resources? Then what? Then what do we do? We- the convenience is what pulls us in. Everything is so convenient now. I mean, I don't want to have to make my own soap just to clean, I mean, I'm enjoying the conveniences. I don't want to go all the way back to, hunter-gatherer days, but I think it would be a good exercise to really determine what is the balance. What is the balance between the conveniences that draw us in, and of course the entertainment and the fun stuff, and all this nice, convenient, wonderful, fun, colorful stuff, games, and what have you, that we are being drawn towards. What are we losing? What are the resources that we are feeding into it? Okay, so now I'm going to start talking about what I really think. This, I think we are losing our communication. Okay, so not only are we trying to homogenize, and through that we are becoming very challenged in our communication. And I think a lot of it is just because so much is being thrown at us all at once. There is just so much. Uh, we're suddenly thrown into this, the internet has kind of thrown us into this big melting pot of culture and possibilities and science, and it's just all there. And I think we're just really scrambling to pick and choose, well, who am I then? Um, and so communication, authentic communication, right now is just to the choking point. It's everybody doesn't really know who they are, what they are, or they're grabbing stuff, but then next week they're proven that that's not right, and so there's a lot of confusion. Anyway, so what happens when we keep feeding into this because of the convenience and the fun, that we begin to suffer the detrimental consequences? Um, I saw a link just yesterday that there is now artificial intelligence that were competed in an art contest and won. This artificial intelligence was programmed, and it just kind of created something and won a contest. And of course, the real life, living, natural, creative artists were not happy about that. That the AI is doing everything better than we can. So who are we? If we're not artists, if it can create better music and create better art, create better poetry, who are we then? And how do we differentiate? And what makes us human? Or are we just going to all be homogenized and the same everywhere? We're just going to each be just individual, living, supposedly, things. I don't know. But I do think that we might be at a point where we should be making that decision. I think we should be deciding if we're not going to be music and art and poetry, and creative in a way that's meaningful, then what are we? And that may have to be really kicked up a notch. Because if AI is going to outdo us on everything, what is our true nature then? Is AI going to outdo us on that? So let's let's figure this out. Let's not just go blindly into this, because it could be like quicksand. Once you're in it is not the time to know what to do. Being in quicksand is not the time to be reactive. You want to be able to think logically and respond in the best way you can. Looking up is probably not intuitive for drowning in quicksand, but We've got to start looking around and stop kicking at each other. We're going into a kind of a homogenized culture that's right now being controlled by anybody who has the money or power or whatever. So let's wake up to this and be participants. Is this what we want? How do we turn it around? People, maybe Amish, I don't know. Amish don't even allow much technology in their cultures, but is that what we want? I don't know. I like conveniences. I like learning what's out there on the computer and all that information. I'm a science buff. I love I love quantum theories and string theory. I love all of it. But is that to the detriment of my humanity? I don't know. And if it is, if I can see that clearly, then I will probably take more action to minimize it. I would rather be a human than just a consumer. So let's put our heads together. Where are we wanting to take this? And so today's question is, let me pull up our question for today, is what kind of world would you like to live in? So I'm putting my bets on creativity, but we've got to differentiate between being human creative and artificial intelligence creative, or do we have to? I don't know. I don't want to. I want to hear from you. I don't know. I don't know where to go, but I'm thinking. Let's wake up and look at this. This is important. This is a big step. Maybe we've got to just become something new altogether. So let's put our heads together and stay creative. Hi, creators. It's Doro Kiley with creationcoach.com, and I'm on a mission to improve this world through you. If you get anything through these videos, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay creative.